Everyone, welcome back. So, in a previous video, we spoke about Bill C-8 and how the Canadian government is stepping into taking away your freedom and your rights. And Bill C-8 was about your online freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and your right to express yourself. Well, in today's video, we're talking about Bill C-2, and this one has to do with your privacy. We're going to jump in. Hang on a second, folks. Before I get you back to your video, in order to watch the rest, you're going to have to click that subscribe button and hit the like button for me so YouTube can continue to push my content out to the masses. Thank you. Now back to your video. Okay, so we're going to start with part one, which they're calling the Customs Act. Now, in Customs Act, we're going to go through section 2 here, where it just says the portion of subsection 6, part 1 of the Customs Act before paragraph A is replaced by the following. So it's an amendment where subsection 6 here says the owner or operator of any of the following bridges, tunnels, railways, airports, wharves, or docks must provide, equip, and maintain free of charge at or near the bridge, tunnel, railway, airport, wharf, or dock adequate buildings, accommodation, or other facilities for carrying out any purpose related to the administration or enforcement of program legislation as defined in Section 2 of the Canada Border Services Agency Act. Then in subsection 2 of subsection 6, paragraphs 1A and B of the English version of the Act are replaced by the following: an international bridge or tunnel for the use of which a toll or other charge is payable. B, a railway operating internationally, or in subsection 3, subsection of 6 of the Act is amended by replacing paragraph C and the portion after paragraph C with the following: an airport, wharf, or dock that receives conveyances operating internationally, whether they are arriving in, departing from, or expected to depart from Canada, and in respect of which a customs office has been designated under Section 5. So this is basically relating to the Fisheries Department, mainly applying to the coasts of Canada. So now any access to those ports must be given free of charge. So that part is not the part of this bill that is a problem just yet, but we are going to try and go through part by part where there are significant parts of it that do affect different parts. Hey guys, want early access to my videos? Just a reminder, every time I upload a video, it always goes live at 3 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. If you want to be able to see it before then, make sure you grab a channel membership today for a cost that is cheaper than any of your online streaming services at only $4.50 Canadian per month. That is a steal of a deal. Don't miss out. Go hit the button now. Canada. Okay, on to part 2. The Controlled Drugs and Substances Act. And first we'll go through the amendments to the Act. The definitions, controlled substance, and precursor in subsection 2, part 1 of the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act are replaced by the following. So a controlled substance now means a substance included in any of Schedules 1 to 4 or in Part 1 of Schedule 5. Precursor now means a substance included in Part 2 of Schedule 5 or in Schedule 6. Paragraph 55. Subsection 1U of the Act is repealed. Section 60.1 of the Act is amended by adding the following after subsection 2. Relevant information says, in making an order under subsection 1 or 2, the minister may take into account any relevant information provided by the Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness. Deletion of item or portion of item under subsection 4. An item or portion of an item is deleted from Schedule 5 on the earliest of Part A, the day specified in an order made under subsection 2 in relation to that item or portion of an item. Part B here, the beginning of the day on which that item or portion of an item is added to any of Schedules 1 to 5 and 6. And now related amendments to this are Controlled Drugs and Substance Act police enforcement regulations. So subsection 11 here, the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act regulations are amended by replacing in Schedule 1, 2, 3, or 4 of the Act with in any schedules of 1 to 5 to the Act in the following provisions: the portion of Section 5.1 before paragraph A and the portion of Section 5.2 before paragraph A. And then precursor control regulations. Under subsection 12 here, the definitions Class A precursor and Class B precursor in Section 1 of the precursor control regulations are replaced by the following. Class A precursor means any of the following precursors. A precursor included in Table 1 or of Part 2 of Schedule 5 to the Act. Preparation or mixture included in Table 3 of Part 2 of Schedule 5 to the Act that contains a precursor included in Table 1 of Part 2 of that schedule. A precursor included in Part 1 of Schedule 6 to the Act. A preparation or mixture included in Part 3 of Schedule 6 to the Act that contains a precursor included in Part 1 of that schedule. Okay, this is a lot to take in. There's probably a lot of words here that we need to go over and understand. So in summary, for Part 2 of the bill relating to controlled substances, it's basically your opiates, your psychedelics, your cannabinoids, all your typical drugs that we constantly try and take off the streets unless, you're acting like BC where you have the safe supply going on. They've just made it a broader definition of what that actually includes. So the enforcement of it is now anything that can be beyond your typical description of opiates, psychedelics, etc. Higher drug enforcement, essentially. So that part of the bill is also not yet a problem. We are going to get to the problem part of the bill next. Okay, so we're not going to talk about Part 3 of the bill just because it's basically just continuation of Part 2 regarding controlled substances. So we're going to move on to Part 4 here because this is the problem part of the bill, and this is where it gets interesting. So Part 4 is the Canada Post Corporation Act. And we're going to start here with demand, seizure, detention, or retention. So, in accordance with Act of Parliament 40.1, nothing in the course of post is subject to demand, seizure, detention, or retention except in accordance with an Act of Parliament. The notice here is if mail is demanded, seized, detained, or retained in accordance with an Act of Parliament other than this Act or the Canadian Security Intelligence Service Act, notice of the demand, seizure, detention, or retention must be given in writing to the corporation within 60 days after the demand, seizure, detention, or retention unless the mail has, before the end of that period, been delivered to the addressee of the mail or returned to the corporation. The limited liability of it says subject to subsection 41.1, His Majesty and right of Canada, any servant or agent or mandatory of His Majesty and the corporation are not liable to any person for any claim arising from a demand, seizure, detention, or retention in accordance with an Act of Parliament of anything in the course of post. Okay, so as we're seeing here, basically, the royal family and the king and anyone who directly works under him are removing themselves of all responsibility around this, of course. Why wouldn't they be? Now here is where things get absolutely interesting. It is under the inspection of mail. The corporation may open any mail if it has reasonable grounds to suspect that subsection 42.1, 42.2.1 of the Act is repealed. Section 48 of the Act is replaced by the following. Every person commits an offense who, unless authorized under an Act of Parliament, knowingly opens, keeps, secretes, delays, or detains, or permits to any to be opened, kept, secreted, delayed, or detained any mail bag or mail, or any receptacle or device authorized by the corporation for the posting of mail. So, this part means that Canada Post, not even police officers or any type of CBSA agents, but Canada Post employees can open your mail without any type of warrant. They are being given the outright authorization by the government of Canada to do so. This is an infringement on your privacy. It is a direct breach of the Privacy Act in this country. That's a problem. So, to summarize Bill C-2, which received its first reading on June 3rd of 2025, that we were not even notified of unless you're actually watching the House of Commons sessions. Basically, starting with the first part, the fisheries and the ports on the coasts are now free access and no longer subject to charges. In short, the drug enforcement is now being expanded to broader definitions, broader terms, which that's actually somewhat of a positive. And then you're losing all your privacy when it comes to mail, because any Canada Post employee can willingly open it without any type of warrant, which is a breach of the Privacy Act entirely. Not sure how this is going to get through the House of Commons, or if it even gets through the House of Commons. And if it receives royal assent, this goes right up to the royal family, right up to King Charles himself, to be brought up as an issue. I'd be demanding your MP bring it up to the Governor General, who typically signs off on behalf of royal assent. This is a complete mess. There is another video coming in a couple days from this as well, talking about another bill. It'll be Bill C-9. Make sure you tune in for that one as well, because that one is where things really, really get dicey and related even more to your freedom of speech, not online. I'll see you soon, and please stay safe, stay diligent, and do not let the government infringe on your rights.